Hello everyone, welcome. I'm going to ask for your help today. Let me tell you what this is about. I got your help in this way, how I should proceed with my video channel. Okay, let me explain. Today I got a message or something in my YouTube, from YouTube, saying that I can apply now for, I think it's the beginning of monetization, something like that. Okay, the rules are, let me explain. The rules are that when you have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, then you can apply, and if you are in good standing, they will say yes, and then you can start being earning money, I suppose, from ads and things. By the way, if you see ads in my videos, I don't know whether you do or you don't when you click on my video, but it's nothing to do with me. I don't suppose you do. But in any case, then they put ads, and then somehow you get some money out of it. I don't think you make really any money unless you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands. I think it's 1 penny for every, I don't know. It doesn't matter. You have to have hundreds of thousands of people watching you and be what they call an influencer and all that, in order to make any real money. But in any case, they invited me to apply. I'm nowhere near that, so I don't know why they said that. I am kind of getting there with the watch hours, because I have like 3,000, I don't know, 500, but I'm nowhere near with the 1,000 subscribers. So, but anyway, they did ask, and I kind of thought about it. And I thought, okay, so this, it has a good side and a bad side. I don't want to get, not that I'm ever going to be an influencer or anything, but I don't want within myself to have to worry, because once you apply, you have to keep it up, and the people have to continue watching you, and it might lead, it's like a snowball. It might lead to you just having to do it for the sake of doing it, and all these headlines in order to attract people. And I think you lose a little bit of the freedom and the independence when you just have to think about getting, it's like selling something. It's like getting consumers, as it were, which is not the same thing, because I rather like this sort of independence thing, whether you can just post a video where you just talked about this or that, and it doesn't matter whether you have 50 views. It doesn't matter to me whether I have 50 views or 500. Well, of course it does matter, but the idea that the pressure of having to increase the numbers and so on. So I thought I don't think I want to do that. But I might do, because I'm also falling into this trap of looking at, the number of subscribers and so on. I think it goes to one's self, vanity or something. It is something like that, So if you see the number increasing, you say, oh, fantastic. And if it gets stuck, as I told you, I was stuck at one time at 639, and I couldn't for weeks and weeks, and then I got stuck again in 666. I thought, oh my goodness, this is not a good number to be stuck. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But this prompted sort of an idea, and this is where I want to ask you if you would be kind enough to let me know, those who follow this for whatever reasons. And that is, I don't know very well how to proceed in this channel. I was asking myself, what is it that I want my channel to be known for? What is it that you want to say? In other words, there are political channels, there are gossip channels, there are religious channels. I started simply as a Catholic channel because I had translated these books and I just wanted to read them out to you. So that was strictly a sort of something to do with the Catholic Church, and that was that. When I finished reading the books, and then I thought it was a little bit tiring, probably, I started doing these chats and talking about this and that and a million things. And I certainly got more audience out of just reading books. So the Catholic thing was kind of left, perhaps not 100%, but I started talking about other things. Now, I don't know in which way to proceed here. I can see by the number of viewers the videos that attract more viewers, the ones that you like best. Also the amount of comments and emails, which ones have people react to them. But I have no idea whether to stay within the Catholic lane or whether to go into the political lane or whether to go, I don't know. A little bit of everything, perhaps. There are so many good channels talking about religion and the Catholic Church and this and that. I watch most of them, although not all the time, because it's usually bad news, and there comes a point when you just, I can't watch any bad news anymore about the Pope or anything else like that. Sometimes I just go to, just for a break, I just go to Groucho Marx. I was watching Groucho Marx yesterday, singing Lydia, oh Lydia, that encyclopedia. Sometimes you need a break, you know. And also in politics, there are about the war and what is going on. There are so many good channels. I follow quite a few of them and learn a lot. But I'm not an expert, so I don't know in which way to go. So let me know. I also had some chats about what the nuns and my childhood, and those I get a lot of comments from that. But I don't want to be doing that all the time. It's a little bit tiring. I thought also, because my 73rd birthday is coming up next week. I thought about, well, if I'm thinking of creating a niche here, you know, that which is not always bad news, perhaps it's talking about different things that are separate from the church and the war and the politics, just something else. About, I don't know, you know, getting older and things like that. Because we tend to now, at an advanced age, you tend to appreciate little things more than we did when we were young and so on. But I don't know. I'm not an expert on that either. I don't know how far I can take it. Talking about the experience of life, I just don't know. So I need your help. And if you want me to continue as I am at the moment, talking about whatever, please let me know. And if you want me to concentrate on one thing or another, I would appreciate it. I was going to talk about I usually talk about what's on my mind, and it's usually a reaction to something that I'm reading or something that I heard, and it's about what I want to talk about today is a little bit about the divisions in society. I know it's bad news, but I don't want to make it bad news. I just want to think about it a little bit. Why it's happening is because I see a lot of very intelligent and expert people on just about everything talking about it, and they, to my mind, they fail to connect the dots to the geopolitics of the whole thing, you know. So I see, for example, I've said this before, you know, people will respect, I mean, for their knowledge, you know, Jordan Peterson, Douglas Murray, so many of them, Nigel Farage here in England, that we know that they know what they're talking about, and they do it very well and in a very articulate way against the woke things and so on. But then they fail to see that this is not an end, this disruption in society's morals and values and so on is not an end. This is being done for a reason that has to do with geopolitics and world governance and so on. So I just don't see how they can't see it. Perhaps it's me that I'm in the wrong, but to me it's so clear. I'll share it with you. Look, okay. I used to be a teacher, so I have to go back to the beginning, because without the history, then I can't explain it. Okay, so after the Second World War, okay, we see, I said this before, we see these international organizations that are there for the benefit of the human race and this and that. Okay, very good. We see little by little that the United States is taking them over for the benefit mainly of the United States. Don't get upset. Okay, so the United States as a country is benefiting from it. NATO, well, to be fair, they were the ones paying the great part of it too. Okay, so whether it is NATO or the World Health Organization, it was mainly the Americans who were paying, but they were reaping the benefits also. Okay, but as a country. But something happened in the 1990s and the early 2000s where we see that instead of the country itself, the United States, benefiting from this was transferred, this benefit was transferred to another elite, which is above and beyond the nation state. Okay, call it the finance, call it the 1%. I don't know what to call it. Okay, so in other words, the American people were no longer really benefiting from it. They are just as, I see them now as much victims as we are in other countries in Europe, for example. So, but it is still the front is still all we see is the United States, but the United States has been taken over by a different power that does not necessarily care that, I mean, their primary concern is not the country as such, is that they are using it in order to. So this is where, so when we talk about the unipolar and the hegemon and so on and so forth, is, yes, it's, we all say the, now people say the American Empire. It was never called that, but anyway, it's not the United States as I see it. The United States is being used for this other world governance power. That is the way I see it. So I have to connect what is happening to our societies that are breaking down and being divided in all sorts of ways to this geopolitical thing. This is what I mean. In order to do that and be successful, you have to break down the morals, what keeps societies together. that has to go. You have to turn it upside down. You have to create division and confusion. We saw this happened in the Catholic Church in the 70s, yes, when it was basically taken over, but not by an outside force. They were there inside the church, but everything was turned upside down. Okay. The end there was not to turn it upside down. That was not the end. That was the means in order to start the process of breaking down or doing away with, little by little, Christianity. The crucified Christ, at any rate. Now, what is happening now with this, a man is a woman is a man, this and that, all these things that until yesterday we wouldn't know. They would have been so strange to us, that are actually there in our face. And I think they went all the way. They don't pretend to be hidden anymore. They are right there, creating confusion and division. And in the West since the West no longer has a strong Christian foundation, it's going to be on these cultural and social issues. It's different, for example, in Eastern Europe, as I see it. Eastern Europe still more socially traditional. If you go with these ideas, they probably laugh at you, although the young are accepting them. But the majority of society are saying, are you insane? I mean, so the division here is going to occur in a different way. And I see that the division here is being caused by stirring up old hatreds. Okay, and the old hatred that some Eastern European countries felt for example, the Soviet Union, and you can say, and okay, quite rightly, nevertheless were dormant there for a while. You see, they were dormant, and now they're being stirred up. The division and confusion in society is not going to be caused in those traditional societies, socially, traditionally, by doing something to children. Yeah, they would not accept that. It is reviving these old hatreds. Let me give you an example, and it's working, as you can see. Poland and all these other, the Latvia and all these other countries. Let me give you an example. In my country of birth, in Spain, for example, when Franco died in 1975, and a democratic people voted for the first time in 40 years, and democracy came and so on. People are very proud that they were able to make the transition without violence, without old hatreds and so on. They had died down, disappeared to a very, very large extent, and now the whole feeling of the country was let us have a go at this, that this works, and so on. And that worked for until the 2000s. Everything, you can take back everything to the early 2000s. The 1990s in America, but the 2000s in Europe. Because we had a prime minister there. We later learned that he was a Freemason and quite high up. Never mind. But at the time, no one knew. But anyway, stirring things up. And he started talking about the Civil War and old hatreds, and bringing up things about how the right the abuses and so on. Well, in a civil war, the problem is that is both sides. You cannot say this was the good side and this was the bad side, the goodies and the baddies. It doesn't really work like that way. In the case of Spain, for example, just to give you an example, remember that this was in the just to explain what is happening, so that you understand the hatred in Eastern Europe and the reaction to Russia and so on. It's just an example. Place yourself in the 1930s, okay? Very traditional societies, poor, still to a large extent in many countries in Europe, agricultural and so on, okay? So, but still industrialized to a large extent also. And remember, in 1917, the Russian Revolution, well, we know that it wasn't a revolution, it was really a coup d'etat. The Bolsheviks took over power. But anyway, it's called the Communist Revolution, okay? Now, it was too early yet for those people living at that time to know what was going to come in the future. And that revolution, which was for the workers and so on, it was going to turn into that totalitarian state. Okay, what was happening in the 1920s and early 30s is that the workers and the poor and the powerless saw the communist revolution as, this is it. We have to follow this. These are, the workers taking over, and we're not going to be exploited anymore. In other words, they felt attracted to communism naturally, because it was for the workers. Okay? All right, so that was quite a natural reaction. But at the same time, communism directed, certainly greatly, the communists in Spain was greatly helped and encouraged by Stalin at the time, who wanted to. It would have been the first communist state in Europe. The Communist Party was that strong. It would have been the first in Europe. So the fight was tremendous. But what happened was that the communists, being atheists, wanted to do away or dismantle the Catholic Church. Okay, fine. But the problem is that in Spain, to dismantle the Catholic Church is going to be a little bit difficult, because the whole history of Spain is practically defending the Catholic Church. It's in the psychic, it's in the historical DNA of the nation. If we took out the Catholic Church out of Spain, the history of Spain would be, 2 paragraphs. Okay, so it was, just to give you an idea, it was a country that fought Islam for 800 years, not allowing it to come into the rest of Europe. 800 years, not continuously, but the thing started in 711, and the last Muslim left in 1492. It is true that for the most part, the whole of Spain had succeeded in keeping it Christian, as it were. That was the war. And it was the south of Spain, what is Andalusia now, where the flamenco people are and so on, that remained for a long time, that particular area, Muslim. And, Muslim. Okay, so after we finished that, we went and fought in the east against the Turks now, Lepanto there, John of Austria, well, we call the Habsburgs, I can never pronounce it, the Austrias. So John of Austria was there at Lepanto and so on. Okay, so we fought that one. Okay. Next, the Reformation in the north. Okay, there we go. We lost that one. But what happened? I'll have to talk about the Inquisition one day. Okay, but what happened there was that the church said, not here. Protestantism will not come to Spain. That's it. No pasarán. They shall not pass. There. Okay. What I'm saying is that the history of Spain is so intertwined all with the Catholic Church. I'm fighting for the Catholic Church. That when in the 1930s, the communists started burning churches, attacking convents, raping nuns, all these out there for everyone to see. Those workers who wanted communism because it was good for the workers, nevertheless were, what? You just burned the church? You see the confusion there. So they were divided and they were confused. My grandmother told me one day in Corpus Christi during the procession that the communists came and started throwing down the statues and this and attacking the priest and So if you were a working man, a humble working man who went to church and were Catholic, you were divided, you were confused, do you see? And the same with the upper classes. So the upper classes were anti-clerical, not because of being Protestant, because Protestantism never came to Spain. It was because of the anti-secular thing, and anti-clerical thing, the secularism that was brought to Spain with the French invasion in 1812, the Napoleonic invasion. And so the French came and with them brought this anti-clerical virus. You're still there going to church, to mass and praying the rosary? Oh my goodness, haven't you heard progress and so on? So what you have is the upper classes and the intellectuals attracted to this. Okay, so they became anti-church, but at the same time they were patriotic in the sense of wanting the king, the monarchy. In that they were conservators. In the do you see? So they themselves were divided also. They wanted the king, Spain won, all that, but at the same time anti-church. So everybody was divided, and that is where you have a civil war: father against son, mother against daughter. And it was very, very painful because anyway, what happened was that after the war, because it had been so painful, people don't want it to go back to that. They didn't want to necessarily even remember it. They all agreed, and they would say, our grandparents did this, whatever, okay, let us all come together. We cannot possibly go back to that. And they were very proud that the transition to democracy was done well, without violence, and everyone happy that we had moved on. And there you were. And then suddenly in the 2000s, you get someone stirring up the old hatreds. And so now we see it again divided up into this, the civil war being brought up again and so on. So what I'm saying is that in these Eastern European societies, which were under a dictatorship, and wanted, after the fall of the Soviet Union, just wanted to just move ahead and let's forget this. Not forget it, because it stays there as a wound, but do not put salt on the wound continuously. Let us just move on if we can. And now the West is stirring these things because of Russia. And it comes And I can understand it becomes very natural for Poland or other countries to now look at Russia and see the Soviet Union and all the hatreds and the resentments coming back. And that is being, I believe, it's being stirred on purpose. It is being manipulated. Anyway, so what do I want to say with all this? That I'm going to stop it here because it's already half an hour. I will continue with these thoughts because sometimes I think that I can be reasonably good at when I talk about morals and values and human emotions, and I want to talk to you about trust, the trust that we had. For example, let me go on for just a little bit more, since I have it in my mind. The trust we had in our governments, for example, until this COVID thing. It is clear to all of us, isn't it, that the people in the countries where a democratic government was stable and solid, the democracy was solid, that this is where people follow the rules most. I think is in our countries is 80% or something like that. I was in the 20%, but I'll tell you about that some other time. But in any case, people followed. Why? Because yes, we knew about politicians and this and that, but surely if the government is telling you that there is a terrible pandemic here and so on, they're not going to lie. I mean, why would they lie? People asked. So everyone followed. You will see that in less stable countries, I'm talking in democratic governments as we understand them in the West, this was not the case. In many African countries, only about 20% of the people followed. Because governments not being as stable, people do not necessarily, just because the government tells them something, they're not going to follow it. Okay, perhaps it might be a reason why you shouldn't do it if the government tells you what to do, because it's not, they don't trust the government with good reason in many cases. So it was in the West and the most stable countries where people just followed because people had trust. I was surprised at how some countries reacted, though. I was surprised at Australia, because Australia, I don't know, I've never been to Australia and I don't think I know any Australian, but I love Australians actually, as I love Italians. They're people who are very independent, different characteristics. But in the case of Australia, you had this. It was like the American individual Texan or Western or something. Very individualistic. I'll do things my way and so on. I built this house with my own two hands. That kind of thing, and. You remember that movie? What was? Oh gosh, I forgot the name of the movie, and I forgot the name of the actor. Very famous Australian actor, and he's walking along the street, and some kids come up to him with a little knife, to mug him or something, and he says, "You call that a knife? This is a knife." Okay, that's my idea of an Australian. Certainly not a person who would fall so easily as they all did. I was very surprised at how everyone in Australia, just practically everyone, just followed all the rules without question. Most of them, and New Zealand and Canada. Anyway, so my point there is that it has something to do with how much we trusted our governments. The more we trusted them, the more we were abused, because the trust was abused. I will continue with this because there is so much more I want to say about this. I want to go into hatreds, I want to go into trust, I want to go into quite a number of things, but it's over half an hour, so perhaps I should stop now. Let me know which way you want me to go. I shall obey. Okay, bye-bye everyone.